All right, today we are diving deep into one of the most psychologically potent strategies there is, and it's all about cultivating an air of absolute unpredictability.
I want you to really think about this for a second. We live in a world that runs on patterns, right? On expectations. So, what happens when someone just decides to throw the entire rulebook out the window? That's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Okay, so our story kicks off in 1972. Picture this: Reykjavik, Iceland. The stage is set for the World Chess Championship. You've got the cool, calculating Soviet champion Boris Spassky on one side, and on the other, the incredibly volatile American prodigy Bobby Fischer. This was never just a game, you know. It was basically a Cold War showdown played out on just 64 squares.
So you've got Spassky, right? He's a master psychologist, a brilliant strategist, and he's feeling confident. He's studied Fischer's style, and he's pretty sure he can take him down. No problem. So he's in Iceland, waiting patiently. But Fischer? Well, Fischer's nowhere to be seen. He's back in the US, making this long list of what sound like completely insane demands. More money, different logistics, and he's threatening to just pull out at any second.
And you can see how it just escalates. I mean, look at this. Fischer finally shows up, but the chaos, it just ramps up. He's complaining about everything: the lighting, the cameras, the chairs. Then in game one, he makes this blunder. It's so amateurish, it just stuns the entire world, and of course he loses. Then for game two, he just doesn't show up, forfeits the game. So now he's down 2-0. To absolutely everyone watching, this looks like a total mental breakdown. He looks scared, unhinged, and like he's on a one-way trip to humiliation. But what if it wasn't madness at all? What if this was a weapon? And that brings us, right now, to the law that explains every bit of this bizarre behavior.
So here's the thing. It's really crucial. Humans, we're creatures of habit. We are literally hardwired to look for patterns in everything. It makes us feel safe. It gives us a sense of control. So when you're predictable, you're basically just handing that control right over to your opponent. This law says, flip the script, turn the tables, act without any obvious consistency, and you will force other people to just exhaust themselves trying to figure out what you're going to do next.
Yeah, and this lays out the power dynamic perfectly, doesn't it? Being predictable makes you, a known quantity. It makes you an open book. It makes you vulnerable. But being unpredictable, whoa, that creates this thick fog of confusion and doubt. It doesn't make people comfortable. It instills this kind of low-grade terror. And most importantly, it keeps you in the driver's seat. All right, so let's keep that principle of unpredictability front and center. Let's go back to our story, back to the chessboard, and see what was really going on with Boris Spassky. Because Fischer, he wasn't just playing chess anymore. He was playing the man.
You see, here's the thing about Spassky. His greatest strength, his whole game, was getting inside his opponent's head. He could read their patterns, anticipate their strategy. But now, Fischer was scrambling every single one of those patterns. His moves were all over the place. His style was totally unrecognizable. In one fell swoop, he made Spassky's #1 weapon completely useless. And the irony here, it's just off the charts. Because this was about Spassky. He was the guy who invented psychological chess, He was the master. And now, Bobby Fischer was using Spassky's own signature move against him, but on a level that Spassky could have never even imagined.
So faced with this puzzle he just couldn't solve, Spassky's brilliant mind just started to collapse. He couldn't find a logical reason for Fischer's behavior, so his brain started inventing completely illogical ones. He got convinced he was the victim of some grand conspiracy, that his mind was literally under attack by some unseen force. And these were Spassky's own words right here. An attempt is being made to control my mind. I mean, think about that. He wasn't playing chess anymore. He was in a fight for his own sanity, against an opponent whose moves just made zero sense. That constant suspense, that feeling of never ever knowing what Fischer would do next, it completely broke him.
And his paranoia just kept spiraling until it reached this, frankly, absurd conclusion. At Spassky's insistence, officials literally took the players' chairs apart and x-rayed them. And you know what they found? The big conspiracy? 2 dead flies. That's it. No invisible devices, no chemicals, no hypnosis. It was all in his head. A phantom army created by Bobby Fischer's unpredictability. Spassky resigned, and Fischer became the world champion.
So, what's the lesson here?
What can we pull from this incredible story? Let's break down the core principles that make this law so powerful no matter where you apply it. At its core, the power of this strategy is rooted in a really primal fear. Think about it. We are terrified by things we can't see coming, like an earthquake, right? Well, unpredictable human behavior taps into that exact same fear. It paralyzes our analytical minds because we have no box to put it in. Most of us, we avoid this. We prefer routine. But a person of power, they understand just how valuable this can be.
Here's another great, quick example. Pablo Picasso. He'd get into this nice, comfortable, predictable routine with his art dealer, Rosenberg. Everything's fine. Then, boom, out of the blue, for no reason at all, he just refused to sell him any more paintings. Can you imagine? The dealer's mind would start racing, inventing all these terrible scenarios. And after about 48 hours of this self-inflicted torture, he'd come back, desperate to just make things normal again, and, of course, willing to pay a much, much higher price to do it.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Like any powerful weapon, you can't just swing it around wildly. Sometimes the most unpredictable move you can possibly make is to be completely predictable. Okay, let's jump to 1974, the Rumble in the Jungle. For a decade, everybody on the planet knew Muhammad Ali's pattern, the Ali Shuffle, right? He'd dance, float like a butterfly, and just wear his opponents down. And George Foreman, this absolute knockout artist, he trained for months to counter that exact pattern. That was the whole game plan. So, before the fight, Ali starts telling everyone he's going to completely change his style. He says he's just going to go right at Foreman and slug it out, trade punches with one of the hardest hitters in history. I mean, people thought this was suicidal. Everyone, and especially George Foreman's camp, just wrote it off as classic Ali trash talk. They thought it was a complete joke.
And then the bell rings, and Ali does exactly what he said he was going to do. He goes to the ropes, the rope-a-dope, and just lets Foreman wail on him, punch himself into exhaustion. Foreman was strategically and mentally completely unprepared for this. His entire game plan was about chasing a dancing Ali. So by doing the one thing nobody on Earth believed he would actually do, Ali used his own predictable reputation as the ultimate smokescreen. He trapped Foreman in his own expectations.
So, look, here's the crucial warning. This is a powerful weapon, but it's also a really dangerous one. If you wield it effectively, yeah, you can terrorize and confuse your opponents. But if you overuse it, or if you try to use it from a position of weakness, you're not going to look strategic. You're just going to look unstable and indecisive. Remember, patterns themselves are powerful. Disrupting them has to be a calculated move, not just your default setting.
And that really leaves us with one final big question for you to think about. I want you to take a hard look at your own habits, your own patterns. Are they a shield, protecting you, creating comfort and stability? Or are they a target, just making you a clear, easy mark for someone who understands this law?